like to thank Carl and Bill Mack for hosting us. This is Willie's Place, the grand ballroom here, and between Bill Mack's old-time country music, Willie's biofuel, and Carl's famous or infamous, depending on your point of view, chicken fried steak, this place is hopping with truckers tonight, a perfect place for our truck stop forum. Now, let's get started. As part of an investigative report that took several months to put together, we recently broadcast a story about rookie truckers that really struck a nerve, especially the accounts, the claims, if you will, of a new driver and a training manager who gave a troubling glimpse into a system that's putting thousands of new drivers on the road. We profiled Desiree Wood, a 45-year-old trucker who said she had been poorly trained to drive big rigs and that she had observed others being poorly trained. She says she spent thousands of dollars at a commercial driver's license school in Florida called the CDL school. So how did you wind up choosing to go to trucking school? Seems an odd choice.
I mostly did not want to work in an office. I wanted to go somewhere where I was going to do my job and be left alone.
But here at the Miami campus of the CDL school, Wood says she didn't expect to be left alone quite so much. She says she paid more than $5,500, and she wanted to learn how to drive a truck. Instead, she says she spent most of the time crushing cones on the driving course. Well, did you have a lot of driving practice? Did they give you a lot of driving school experience?
No. My school, we got our written part out of the way the first week. Then we go to the driving course. And basically, they would drop us off there, and they'd be like, there's the trucks. We'll pick you up at 7.
And she says actual road training was limited to 2 very short trips in 3 weeks.
I only got 2 times. You're supposed to go 3, but the last day I was like begging. I'm like, I haven't gone out very much. Can I go?
Well, you know that a lot of people will hear this and say, you mean to tell me she went to what is supposed to be trucking school, and she actually only drove the truck more or less around the block?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, what do we think of that?
It's unsafe.
Well, do you think or not that new drivers who've gotten their CDL, a commercial driver's license, when they start driving, are they really ready to drive a big rig, 80,000 pounds on the highway?
No, they're not. I mean, they're putting these people out on the highway that some of them are inappropriate to ever sit in this seat, and they're pushing them through these schools
It's
until
a business.
Yes, it's a business. It's an industry in itself, these students.
We also met Tom Hansen, who was speaking out for the first time about driver training, or lack of it, at his former company, CRST Van Expedite.
When I see a truck from a former company I worked for, I give them a lot of space because I'm not so sure of that person's skills.
Until very recently, Hansen worked as a manager here at CRST's terminal in Oklahoma City. Every Monday morning for 5 years, Hansen says, he got 30 to 40 new recruits who he'd put through a battery of checks and tests, trying to ensure that they qualified for CRST's finishing school for new drivers.
When this brand new student got there, did they pass the qualifications that we gave them? Could they write their name more than once? Could they read a map? Could they pass a road test without hitting 4 curbs or being able to shift the truck? I know from personal experience doing thousands of road tests, at least in the last 7 years, literally thousands, that's not an exaggeration. There's a lot of them who probably shouldn't be doing this business. They probably should stick to maybe, drywalling or roofing or whatever they were doing in the past.
Well, that was Tom Hansen, formerly with CRST Trucking, and Desiree Wood, who drives for Covenant Transport. By the way, Desiree Wood is in our audience now. I want to spend a few minutes discussing this report, and then we'll want to move on to other subjects about the trucking business, a really important business for the country, for its economy, for our whole transportation system. First, I want to tell you about who's on our panel and who's not on our panel. The American Trucking Association is a powerful voice for thousands of trucking companies in Washington. They lobby, they try to get some legislation passed, they try to stop other legislation. They're actively involved in trying to affect regulatory events. We interviewed them at the first report, and they initially agreed to join us tonight. But then ATA's press secretary, one Clayton Boyce, sent us a note backing out saying, and I quote directly, "I was very disturbed to learn this morning that you plan to open next week's show with a videotaped recap of the story from 2 weeks ago, which, as you know, I believe was very unfair." End of quotation. You should know that we promised the ATA at least 20 minutes to lay out their critique of our first report and discuss broader economic and safety issues concerning trucks. There are plenty of issues, as you know. These are issues that only affect millions of people who work in the trucking industry. They affect everybody in the country. But as Mr. Boyce said, it was one woman, Desiree Wood, who compelled them to cancel, writing, and again I quote directly, "Given the poor judgment shown in having this person on your show and in planning to rebroadcast her slander, I cannot let ATA participate on your show next week." So they flatly refused to come on, even though we had promised them 20 minutes in the clear to give their point of view. A footnote, the idea that a single person, whoever it is, could silence the representatives of a $600 billion industry was pretty, well, disappointing to say the least. We also reached out to Covenant and CRST and 10 other leading trucking companies. A dozen invitations and only one company accepted. We're very happy to have two panelists here tonight from Werner Enterprises, the third largest long-haul company in the country, and they are internationally involved as well. First, we have Mr.